in today's video, while revisiting an area I photographed a few months ago and hopefully getting a few photos, I thought I'd talk about my minimal photography kit and why it's my goal to collect and carry as little gear as possible these days.
Blue moon, kinda mysterious, shaded with someone I'm not really into.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So you may or may not recognize the location in today's video from a video a few months ago. You might do when I start moving around a bit further up there, but I've come back here today to basically explore it a little bit more because I think I left quite a lot of exploring to do and hopefully revisit a couple of shots I took last time and get better results. Tell you what, the wind chill is rough today. So you may have to put up with me having my hood up for the video and also these gigantic gloves because, yeah, I didn't expect it to be this cold and I didn't come that prepared. But anyway, let's try and get some photos and let's talk about this minimal kit as we go along. And I think my first shot I want to try and get is just up here, so I'm going to cross this water and we'll get talking about this minimal kit. So last time I took photos of this sort of little ruined hut here. I shot it from over that way and up there. I just don't think it was very interesting in the background. I'm going to try and get a new shot of it here with more of this background going up into the shot. There's also a hut way over there in the distance. Don't know if you can see that in camera, which we'll go up to in a bit as well. But I also want to try and include, there's some big patches of mossy stuff here. I'm no good with the names of greenery and accurate terms for foliage, so I'm just going to call it moss. It's probably not. You can probably correct me in the comments, but I'm going to try and include some of that in the foreground. So let's see what we can do. Maybe use some of this water down here as well. It's really boggy and there's almost a little puddle here. So maybe if I go a bit wider to say, let's say 24 millimeters, we might, yeah, that's quite cool. Start playing around with some of this water. Sun's coming through now. And then we're gonna, like I say, include a lot of this mossy stuff at the front. So because the sky is, I mean, there's a little bit of detail up there, but it's mostly sort of white and greys blended together. I'm gonna position the hut in the, maybe like the top right hand third, so we cut as much sky out as possible just because it's not actually adding anything to the frame whatsoever, which is going to require me to get down a little bit low around about here, and then I'm going to move along to a bit where this mossy stuff looks the most pleasing. While I'm here, I also really like including this golden grass because it is, I mean, there's not much light coming through, but because it's so much brighter and whiter than the greeny other bits, I think it makes the shot look quite a lot nicer. So I'm going to do one where I include a lot of that in the foreground. And then what I'm going to do, because I'm not going to be able to focus the camera, the autofocus is going to want to lock onto the grass while I'm down this low. So I'm going to focus on the building and then move the camera down into position, and the focus is going to stay locked on the building. And if we go probably like f4, most of this grass, well, all of the grass in fact, is going to be nice and blurry, give us lots of depth and hopefully give us a cool shot. The sky is getting a bit more detail in it now, which is nice for shots coming up in a bit. Let's position the hut again on the top right hand side because the sky isn't the star of the show here. And something like that should be. And that also brings that background hut into play a lot from this angle. So that's cool. Let's go ahead and frame the hut up in the center. Make sure I lock on there. Locking on is pivotal as well because I'm at f4.5, so any little movement's probably gonna throw the focus off. Nice little seat here. Right, so before I get into the reasons why it's kind of a goal of mine to carry as little camera gear as possible these days, I suppose I better talk about what the minimal kit actually is. And the sun behind me is probably going to keep changing over and over again, so I do apologise if the lighting in this recording is up and down. But the body I'm using for stills currently, as you may know if you've watched any of my recent videos, is the Sony a7C II. This was actually supposed to be a dedicated video camera that would only come with me when I film videos to stay on the tripod, talking head stuff, or stay at home with a lighting setup for like desk footage and stuff like that. But after shooting with it for a couple of photo sessions, a couple of walks just using this camera and a lens, I pretty much fell in love with it. So that's why I've swapped out to using this as my stills camera. Also, I do have to come clean that after a few weeks of owning it, I slightly damaged the mic jack, so I don't want to rely on it for audio right now until I get it repaired, so I have promoted it to the stills camera. For anyone that doesn't already know, it's basically exactly the same as the A7 IV but smushed down into a more compact body. There's a few minor differences and stuff, but it is pretty much a compact A7 IV, and I love it. It's good for photo, good for video. I mean, all modern cameras these days will get the job done anyway, so that's why I'm not too stressed about having a more compact body for my stills camera. My only one downside is when you opt for the C line with Sony, the compact cameras, you do get a few less custom buttons than you do on the bigger bodies. It hasn't really been that much of a problem, but I did find when I'm shooting in the city or anywhere where moments happen a lot faster and I need to access my settings a lot faster, I did miss out on those extra custom buttons, but I found my way around it. I've set it up to the best way I can to action them settings fast. Onto lenses then. For the last maybe year or so, I've only carried two lenses with me, or only shot with two lenses, shall I say, and those two are the 16 to 35mm from Zeiss, Sony Zeiss, or Zeiss, I don't know how you say it, and the 50mm. And this is nothing fancy. This is the budget 50mm. Again, as I'm sure you'll know from any of the 50mm photography videos that I've filmed, they're the two lenses I've been using for the past year, nothing else. I did shoot with the Sony kit lens for a little bit as a little test, just to see if I liked a zoom of that focal range. I will say though, full disclosure, I have been wanting to replace the 16 to 35 for a long time now, and I'll get onto why later on in this video, because it coincides with another one of my reasons for keeping my photography kit so minimal these days. So I'll get onto that in a bit. And also, side note, of course I carry a few other bits and bobs like a filter, extra batteries, extra memory cards. So I might not share all the photos I'm taking today in this video because I'm very conscious of the fact that I've shot here before in a video and I don't really want to sort of bore people with repeat shots that are marginally better. So I'll probably just show the main ones. So the most important reason why I've been using such little gear and only using two lenses and so on is because the more and more you use a piece of gear, whether it be a camera or lens or anything else, the better, the faster and more proficient you get at using that bit of gear, meaning when you go out, you're so much more likely to get results you're happy with because you know that bit of gear like the back of your hand. You know exactly how to use it, you can use it fast, you can use it reliable, and hopefully you know it's going to get results that you like as well. So that is the most important reason why I'm keeping my kit so small. But let's go a little bit deeper into it. So something that I think goes really overlooked when it comes to lenses is that the lens that you use, the focal length that you choose to shoot at, oftentimes has a huge effect on the look and style of the photographs that you're taking. And I'm sure there are photos that you love taking, photos that you really love the finished result of, that actually a lot of it comes down to the focal length that you've chosen or the lens that you've shot at. Now, in no way am I saying the lens does most of the work for you or anything like that. So using one lens or one focal length for such a long period of time will undoubtedly tell you whether that lens and that focal length actually sits in line with photos that you like taking. I think way too often when we're shopping for lenses or when we think I'm going to upgrade my kit, we go searching for lenses based on how wide the aperture goes, how sharp the lens is and all that business, and never really stop and think, well, is that lens actually going to sit in line with the photos that I aim to take with it, the style of photography that I like? Which brings me nicely onto why I've been meaning to replace the 16-35 for such a long time, and I will be replacing it when I get around to it, when the bank balance allows it, shall we say. The reason is because having shot with the 16-35 and the 50 for so long exclusively, I've realised that actually I don't need a lens that's as wide as 16. I did really like it back in the day, and I kind of bought that lens mostly for video as well, so 16 was quite appropriate when I liked really wide images and big B-roll shots and stuff like that. But having looked back on the images that I've shot over the last year, probably even 2 years now, I've noticed that most of the images I take are sort of between 30 and 50 millimeter, and even then I find myself needing or wanting to put my camera into APS-C crop mode a lot more than I'd want to. And I think I've mentioned this in a video before, but that all points towards me not really needing anything below 20 millimeter. So if you are somebody that's currently not really sure what focal length you like, you're not really sure the style of images that you like taking, and how wide you like your frames and how much you want to punch in on photos, I do really recommend just completely minimizing your kit. It doesn't mean you have to get rid of your gear. You could just tell yourself, right, for the next month I'm going to shoot with this lens and this lens only, and then review the images and what focal length they were shot at, the ones that you actually liked from that lens. And over time, it might take a while, it could take a year, it could take 10 years, but over time you will figure out which focal length actually fits your photography style and the images you want to create. You know what, I'd go as far to say as spare batteries and spare memory cards are probably the most valuable part of a photographer's kit, which is funny because no one ever really speaks about that or says that, do they? I mean, if someone has before, then credit to you, because you're right. You run out of battery or you run out of space on your memory card, day's over, isn't it? No more photos. You're on holiday and you only take one battery with you. You are living on the edge, my friend. It's a bit of a tangent, but if I was going to invest in anything as a beginner, it would be spare batteries and spare memory cards. Obviously after a camera and a lens, of course. Okay, now lastly, because I'm taking most of my photos with one camera and two lenses, I find that it really simplifies my post-processing workflow. I mean, take this this house here, for example. I could take a shot on the 16-35 at 35, let's say. I could climb up this hill and then get a crazy telephoto photo, and then I could maybe go in for a detail shot. I could go down that way and get sort of a mid zoom shot, and then I'm going to end up with so much more images in my Lightroom to edit and go through that I get decision fatigue, basically. I'm the type of person that stands in a DIY store, looks at the same shade of blue paint, walks out having not made a decision, and then the decorating project that I started goes no further forward. And I'd just rather crack on, get the job done and focus on the task at hand. So I do think it really just streamlines my process a lot. And if you're somebody that gets overwhelmed and you feel like you've got way too many files, you feel like you can't land on a style, this is where I think having a minimal kit really comes in handy. And that's not to say I'm not going to play around with future lenses or any other focal lengths or anything like that. But if I do, and I do find one that I like, I'll more than likely swap one of the lenses out and just make sure I keep it to as little items as possible. Shooting with just one camera and one lens allows me to just focus on the task at hand, which is taking nice photos, and it makes me feel free to create. It almost feels like I'm just out enjoying myself and happen to have a camera with me. Even though I've specifically gone out to take photos and practice photography, it does feel a bit like I'm just enjoying my day and having a nice time, and taking photos along the way, which is exactly how I want photography to feel for me, because photography for me is about escaping, getting outdoors and just being peaceful outside of the house and outside of work hours and just having a nice time, and then along with that creating some nice stuff. Alright, so to conclude all the thoughts and feelings and opinions that I've spouted in today's video, if you do notice yourself finding a pattern or noticing a pattern with the piece of equipment you're using, the camera you're using, the lens you're using, the focal length that you're shooting at, anything, and you notice that using that particular thing is getting you results you really love, I do recommend really leaning into it and maybe just limiting yourself to just using that for an extended period of time and just find out whether you need anything more. I feel like being gear orientated is one part of photography as a hobby, and enjoying your time outdoors and simplifying your process and just having fun is another part of the hobby. You could be both, you know. I'm just rambling. It's up to you what you do, but I'm going to make these videos regardless and give you my opinions and advice regardless. So I hope you enjoyed, hope you found it helpful in some way or another, or if not, hopefully it cured your boredom. If you want to jump into free, powerful, quick photography techniques that you can use to get more and better photos, then check out this video right here. But that's it from me, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.